Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com, where music comes to life. And my guest today is the frontman for one of the great rock bands on the scene today. Hailing from England, Vega is about to release their seventh record called Anarchy Unity. And if you haven't discovered this band yet, do yourself a favor and look them up. It's straight up modern sounding rock. It takes its influences from the 80s, but it's firmly grounded in the 21st century. From Vega, please welcome frontman Nick Workman. Nick, welcome. Glad to have you today. Now, before we talk about Anarchy and Unity, let's take a little look back at the history of the band, the foundation of the band. Yourself, twins James and Tom Martin, keys and bass respectively. You guys came together in 2009. How did the three of you get together, and was there songwriting chemistry there from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, they knew of me from my sort of previous band called Kick, and they were a big fan of that band. And they approached me at a gig I was doing with another band at the time, because that had long since finished. And they just said that, you know, they're looking at doing a project. Would I be interested in doing it? Now, bear in mind, they were a little bit, a few sheets to the wind, as you know. And I thought, yeah, well, you know, at that point, just send us some of your tracks if you like, lads. I was just being polite, really. I didn't even know who they were, you know. And anyway, they sent me a song called New Religion or something like that, and it was not bad. To be fair, I quite liked it. So okay, I'll give them a little bit more of my attention at this point. And then they sent me something that they'd already excuse me, they had some sort of melodies over it already, so I was just really copying what was done. And then they said, well, here's a song that hasn't got any, some music that hasn't got any words on at all, have a go at it. And I did, and literally, I think that was probably the song called Into the Wild from the first album. So that was a pretty good first track to sort of like come up with together. So I think we've got something here, and literally the chemistry did just grow from there, and it became a proper band probably within about 4 or 5 songs. Even though we weren't meeting together, we knew that we weren't just going to do a project. We were in it for the real deal, sort of thing.
And now I discovered you guys with your fourth record, Who We Are, in 2016. And listening through your catalog, that record really feels like the turning point of the band. Produced by Harry Hess of Harum Scarum, it's like everything that you guys built up on those first 3 records just exploded on that one. Did you feel when you were creating it that there was something different about that record?
Excuse me. Yeah, but you also have to realize that because we're not a project, because we are a real band, we were playing live a lot, so we were touring a lot, and that meant that's why we had this sort of transition to where we were at the beginning, where we hadn't played live together, and then we played live from that moment onwards. And so that definitely became, you know, it was always, look, we've evolved, because if you look from the 4th record to the 7th record now, there's an evolution happening there as well. So we are constantly transitioning, and you know, we're gender fluid in the music world. So we're, you know, so no, it wasn't really so much of a shock in terms of for us, because we're always evolving and moving forward gradually. But I think that was probably the album that maybe we just did a big leap at that point. The others was sort of naturally grew, whereas when from Stereo Messiah to Who We Are, there was a big jump at that point.
And it's funny because that goes right into what I wanted to talk to you about next, is that evolution. You know, early on, you guys were kind of lumped in that AOR melodic rock bucket with 100 other bands that were coming out. But by the time you get to this record now, Anarchy and Unity, I mean, this is just a raw, guitar-driven, muscular rock record with your melodic vocal on it. And where I was going to go with that is, do you guys see the evolution of your band, or does it kind of take some perspective in looking out at it?
No, everything we do is natural. It's organic. We don't try to. We haven't been trying to sort of like write any particular record. We just write songs. And I think what happened with this record, well, Grit Your Teeth was quite a big step for us, from Only Human to Grit Your Teeth. And that, you know, that was working with the Graves brothers, who'd worked with quite a few big metal bands in the past, and that was really good for us. But we're not a band that's afraid to take risks. We in our pot of ingredients, we've got your Def Leppards, Guns N' Roses, and Bon Jovis, but we also add in the Police, or we might add in the Eurythmics, or we might add in, you know, Oasis, or other, you know, random sort of like bits of influence, if you like. So that's the thing that's always sets apart from the AOR bands of the world, who sort of like, look, they do what they do. And then, you know, we aren't trying to reinvent the wheel, and they aren't trying to reinvent the wheel, but they're maybe focused on 2 or 3 bands like your Journey, Toto, you know, Night Range, or whatever. Whereas and I think we've got the same problem that Def Leppard had, in that we're kind of like, we're too pop for metal and we're too rock for pop and stuff. You know, we are in that middle ground. And people, what I love about it is that people can't pigeonhole us. They can't sort of put us in a place. But as I carry on my verbal diarrhea here, the thing that with this new album is that we had this conveyor belt that I keep referring to. Whereas when Pete and Billy joined the band, Tom and James and I, we'd already written about 8 songs in their demo form. Now, all of our demos could have come from, if you listen to our demos from album, probably, well, the first album's demos were shockingly bad quality, but from What the Hell onwards, you wouldn't know which album the demos came from, because all of our demos are the same. We don't put any effort into the demos. A lot of bands do the demos, and that's what they're going to use on the album. They put everything. We don't, because we want to have that change of gear when we go to the studio to record. So our evolution doesn't happen, and we don't know what's going to happen to the songs until we hit the studio. Literally, we had the demos, myself, Tom, and James, and then with this album, this conveyor belt, what happened was some of the songs, even the song "Ain't Who I Am," that was originally, I wrote this song. I was bored one night, nothing to watch on Netflix. I'd scanned it for an hour and thought, oh Jesus, I'm still scanning. So I had my acoustic, and I just, on my Mac computer, I just programmed some drums, programmed some bass, because I had this acoustic idea, and I don't even have an electric guitar at home. I write everything on acoustic, and I just put some distortion on the acoustic guitar, and I had this song for it, and I wasn't going to do anything with it. But then when my wife was listening to some demos and stuff, I said, oh, this is just what I was dicking around with, ha ha ha. And she said, that's really good, you should do something with that. I was like, really? So I thought, well, I'll just send it to the guys anyway. And they thought, yeah, that's really good. So that started it. But how this conveyor belt worked is that, so we had these original songs, and then it's like, okay, well, we'll send it to Billy. Billy, you redo the music in your mentality. Let's replace the edge from U2 and let's put Slash in there, you know, which is, that took us to a different place as Vega. We tuned everything down a whole step. So it's not in normal concert pitch, we're downwards. So that took it down to a muscular step as well. And then once Billy did something, he'd send it back to me, so I would then re-sing it because it was in a different tuning. And then once I'd done my bit, I'd send it to Pete, and Pete would do some sort of like cool sort of production touches, maybe add some BVs as well. And that's the conveyor belt. And it was just, we just took, because it went through such a process of all of us working on it, I think that's why the songs ended up as being how they are, because there was such attention to detail.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned, some of the bands, everything from the Eurythmics and Oasis into, the Def Leppards and Guns N' Roses. And I think that is what sets you apart. And I find that a lot with English bands, in that you are willing to take influences, not just from rock bands, but looking at pop bands. Whereas with American bands, even with a lot of the Swedish bands, it's, a tunnel vision of these are my influences. And I think that's what sets you and a lot of English bands apart.
Yeah, a good chance of that. I mean, definitely from me, from a vocal melody perspective, I will, if I hear a melody from anywhere, doesn't matter what it is, I'll make a note of it, or sort of like it'll influence something somehow. And sometimes you find yourself, like on the last album, Consequence of Having Heart, when I wrote that, I thought, oh man, where have I heard that before? Where have I heard it? And it was Tears for Fears. And the original demo was exactly Tears for Fears, but we couldn't do it exact, so I had to change a few notes. So if it went to court, I should keep my house.
There you go. Keep your publishing.
Yeah, but it's like Butch Walker when he did that Cigarette Love song, where, and he pretty much rewrote all the young dudes. So David Bell actually got a co-write on that song, and I'm sure he never even set foot in the studio to co-write it. So sometimes you inadvertently stumble across a melody that you think is genius until you realize, oh yeah, someone's done that before already.
It was genius.
It was genius the first time. Just it's a rip off the second.
You mentioned Grit Your Teeth, which came out in June of 2020. I mean, just in the middle of the pandemic, there was no touring behind it, which was a shame because it's such a great record. And so did you guys immediately go into writing for Anarchy and Unity, or did you kind of hold out some hope that maybe you'd be able to hit the road?
No, we hoped that we were going to hit the road, but we knew it wasn't going to happen. So it's kind of like a bit, empty hope. But we didn't really have the intention of writing a song. Obviously, 2 members left during the pandemic, which was fine. We kind of knew one was coming and kind of nudged the other one in that direction as well, because when you know, and sometimes it's best to sort of cut your losses before it becomes sort of an issue kind of thing. So there was no hard feelings, all good, off your pop. So then Billy and Pete came into the band, and during the summer when restrictions kind of relaxed briefly, we got together. We said, let's have a rehearsal. Let's just have a rehearsal, just to knock out some play together, because we've got these new members, but we're not likely to play together for a long time. So we had a rehearsal, and so we just decided to only play songs from Grit Your Teeth. We played about 4 or 5 songs from Grit Your Teeth, because none of us have played those. And when we were playing them, Billy was playing the songs, but he played a different guitar part to what was on the album. Like, that's really cool, man. Yeah. And then we do another song, and Pete might do something different on the drums, and and it's just like, we've written sort of 6 or 7, 8 songs for the next album, just because we always write songs before an album comes out. And we said, why don't you have a go at just reworking some of these songs that we've done. So it happened because we had that rehearsal. Had we not done that, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about a new album, because it was just like, having that, because we've never said to any member in the band who's been in the band previously, you can't write, it's ours, that's what we write. But no one's ever bothered to get involved. So when Billy and Pete wanted to get involved, yeah, brilliant. Geez, they did more in the band in the first 6 months than all of the other previous members combined in 10 years. It's brilliant. So no, it was just, we had this purple patch of inspiration, and it was exciting because of the conveyor belt. Something would come to me, it would go to Billy, it would come back to me, and it was just like something new every day. Oh, I love what you put in there. It was just so exciting to do it. It was brilliant.
And it keeps, I'm glad to hear you say that you guys were able to get together in that rehearsal, and that's where these songs grew out of, because a lot of times when you change members in a band, that first record, you kind of hear it a little bit, you got to find your footing, and then it kicks in. But with this record, I mean, tracks like A Beautiful Lie, I mean, End of the Fade is my absolute favorite on the record. It sounds like you guys have been playing together for a long time with this song.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's the songs were pretty much, all of the songs originated with myself, Tom, and James, whether it's just with me or with one, with the 3 of us, and like that. So they all originated from the same place. All Vega songs have started. So that's why it will maintain that Vega flavor. But we haven't taken anything away from Vega. We've added, we've dropped in loads of new Pete and Billy herbs and spices to sort of like flash it up. But like with End of the Fade, we did the demo of that, myself, Tom, and Jen. I loved it, but there was something about it's like, wow, I was really into it. Jim was like, yeah, there's something I just don't know about it, And then so that was one, I think it was one of the last ones that we sent to Billy to sort of like, we'll see what you can do with this one. I mean, I spoke to Billy. I said I suggested a couple of songs by Slash that I think try something like this on the verse instead of just chugging it away, because that's all the demo was. It was just chugging like that. But and he did, and so melody wise, vocal wise, I've barely changed a thing. I just re-sang it to suit the way that Billy played it. But we called it our James Bond sort of theme tune, that one, to the point where if you listen to the verse, you've got this sort of like sampled hand clap on it, and that was actually sampled from Duran Duran's View to a Kill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
we actually proper took from a James Bond theme for that. Yeah.
And we talked about touring a little bit, and I know you guys have some dates set up in England through October, November. And you guys are in a little bit better spot than we are here in the States, when it comes to helping things start to get cleared up. How confident are you that you'll be able to play those dates? And do you have sort of other legs kind of plan and sort of wait and see what happens before they get
Yeah.
announced?
In all honesty, the gigging for us is really all about 2022, because as much as venues are open here, ticket sales are massively down.
Yeah.
On where, I mean, I've been speaking to promoters with the tour, because we do pretty much everything in-house at Vega. So I've been speaking to promoters, venues that we're doing, and they said, oh, they did this gig, and I can't remember who it was, but they pre-COVID, they'd sold 1,200 tickets. Then they had to cancel it, refund everyone, then put it back on sale now post-COVID, or ongoing COVID, if you like, and they only sold 500.
Yeah.
And of those 500, and this is across all venues, they said no one's walking up on the day to buy tickets, and 10 to 15% of people who bought tickets aren't even turning up for the gigs. So your outdoor festivals are okay because people feel safe, but I think it's just a sign of the fact that if you think about the demographic that our music is appealing to at the moment, it's not really the young, it's more sort of like your middle-aged, and so the smaller venues aren't really sort of like going to fill you with confidence because they're quite low ceilings, compact. You're probably right in amongst everyone's sweat and spittle, So we are not expecting massive turnout for these 2021 shows, but bloody hell, we just want to get out and play some gigs. Because if there's 25 people in the room, it's not going to make me very happy, but I'm still going to have a great time doing that gig, because I just want to get and do it, and it's just going to be great fun to do. And then next year we have got some really cool festivals. We've got a festival in France we're doing this year, one in Scotland we're doing, so they're going to be great as well. And don't get me wrong, we're going to still go 100% for these headline shows. But then next year, we have got a lot going on with festivals in Europe, Belgium, the tour with Scandinavia with the Dan Reed Network, and Magnum in Europe as well. So next year, I'm not so worried about COVID. I'm more worried about Brexit and the amount of logistics and paperwork that we probably have to fill out just to play a gig in Belgium or something like that. Yeah.
Well, and with all of that, I mean, I know financially it's almost impossible for bands of the size of Vega to come and tour the US. Do you ever foresee the band getting a chance, whether it's jumping on opening for somebody or doing a series of club headlines, or is it just something that really isn't on the band's radar?
It's literally something we talk about all the time that we would love to do, but we aren't sort of in our early 20s with no commitment. We're all sort of like, and we've got families, we've got bills to pay, and so we can't do a gig where it could cost us thousands of pounds, and we can't just do it just for having a laugh, just a boys' weekend away. Let's go and do some gigs in America. So we for us to do it, it's not even about making money. It's like, because what with all the streaming and stuff now, you're not doing it to make money from your music like the old days. If we make money, it's from merchandise sales, from gigs and stuff. So gigs is what we want to do, but it's not about money for us, because the currency for this band has always been, I bloody love doing it, but at the same time, we still need to put food on the plate and pay the bill. So we can't just jump on a plane to America. We need someone to come in and say, we'll cover your expenses, get over here. Yeah. And then we'd be there tomorrow.
Well, we've been spending some time here today with Nick Workman of the band Vega. The record is called Anarchy Unity. It's out everywhere September 17th. And again, as I said in the intro, if you have not discovered this band yet, do yourself a favor. You won't be disappointed. This is record number 7. They're all fantastic. Nick, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. It's been great getting to talk to you, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Indeed, and then hopefully I'll be able to tell you where the treasure is.
You got to put a little X on there, make everybody wonder what it is.
It's around the Arctic Ocean, just sort of east of Greenland, apparently.
Again, thank you so much. September
No worries.
17th, Anarchy and Unity. The band is Vega. Nick, it's been a pleasure.
You too, man. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Cheers.